Hello, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of MTG Study Hall Social Distance Edition. I am Brett, and I am joined this week by JC, Lily, and Tam. We have a lot to talk about this week, and we had a lot of time on the pre-show. Check that out if you are a Patreon subscriber. Before we get into all that, though, Tam is going to do a little bit of bookkeeping for us. Tam, take it away.
Yeah, absolutely. If you like the show and you want to support us, the best way to do that is by going out on patreon.com/TCGUniversity and subbing out there at least the $1 level, get access to the live link with a pre and post show. And I got to say, this week was definitely worth it. It was super worth it for the pre-show. Post-show, we're not sure yet. We're not there, but it was worth it. No ad break, just like all these awesome people have. We have Addy, Andrew Dang, Anthony Albano, Bryce Rasak, Chris Miner, Clay Cardwell, Jacob Arshan Masur, Jay Rogers, Jarrett Hubbard, Jesse Cervini, Jesse Morrison, Jesse Nix, John Stone, Justin Farce, Justin Hobbs, Kat Maria, Kevin Broberg, Kieran Vision, Lucinda Ludica, Okami Law, Orlando Valdos, Sandos, Paul Casagrande, Peyton Kiker, Ransom MacArthur, Samantha Stevens, the baddest bitch around, Sean O'Brien, Tyler Zane Pease. Thank you guys so much for supporting us, helping us keep the lights on. But if you don't have any bucks to toss, that's totally chill. You can go catch the episode for free over on youtube.com/TCGUniversity. No pre-show, no post-show, yes ad break, as well as on podcast services around the globe. Big shout-outs to our sponsors this week. We have Nuclear Inked Custom Tattoo and Skate Shop, Cards Custom Build, Inked Gaming, and Dex Protection, but we'll chat about that a little bit later.
Alrighty, thank you so much, Tam. So real quick, we're going to talk about what we did in Magic this past week. Lily, what have you done in Magic this past week?
Oh gosh, played a little bit of Arena. I like being able to play what's my favorite Brawl deck I've ever played again, so that's nice.
And that is?
Kroxa.
Okay.
Oh, I love that deck. That was so much fun.
Because I'm a miserable human being.
Send me your list. I'll do that on Brawl with Brett next time.
Okay.
Anything else or just a little bit of Arena?
A little bit of Arena. Watching JC stream Chandelar has been lovely. It is, I don't know, like they don't make games like that anymore.
They don't.
And well, on that topic, JC, what have you been doing this past week? I'm guessing maybe playing a little Chandelar.
Yeah, playing a lot of Chandelar. Something I didn't mention in the last Chandelar talk that we had is a lot of the reason people think the game is so good is that Sid Meier had a huge hand in it.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He's not officially credited, but he did actually work on it like a bunch. Yeah, so streaming some Chandelar. I'm trying to set up a consistent streaming schedule of streaming right after Brawling with Brett and probably streaming Sunday nights at about 11 as well. So that should be fun. I actually even went out and purchased the original Windows 95 CD-ROM for the game. That way it's all official. I also bought some of the Rat Secret Lair stuff because I had missed out on the original Secret Lair drop of it, and I really wanted some of them premium rats. I really like a lot of the art, even Ink Eyes, which I know is divisive.
No, I love the Ink Eyes art. I'm a huge... That's the all black and white one, right? That's like the Sin City style. I thought that art was sweet.
I thought it was sick. And also just the Pack Rat. The Pack Rat's beautiful.
Oh gosh, that card. Oh,
that's such a good card too. Like playing Chandelar in the old decks, they don't make rats like that.
That card single-handedly ruined an entire draft format.
Yeah.
I played a lot of Return to Ravnica draft. That card was a nightmare.
Like there's a lot of bullshit. There's a lot of like flack that Wizards gets making things mythic. But I don't think people realize how much making things mythic like spares the draft environment.
Oh, Pack Rat was so bad. You could the idea of the deck was you literally could just run it and 39 swamps and just mulligan down to that. Now you wouldn't do that because that's dumb, but you could. It was that good.
Well, it's not like to like the Demir Mill stuff that was.
Yeah, it's anyway. We're getting off topic. Tam, what have you done in Magic this past week?
Well, not this past Tuesday, but the Tuesday before, I was playing in a Universes campus championship that is up on the channel at the moment, or it will be this upcoming week, excuse me. And I was missing a couple of cards, and so I started to use proxies, and the best proxies that I have are Magic the Gathering cards. And so I went to, I've got like these 2 big 5 rows full of Magic the Gathering cards. And I pull out some of them and I start sleeving. And then I look and I pull out a hollow land that says turn it sideways and pay 1 to get 2 mana. And I go, I bet this is good, right? And I look it up, and it was a $10 card. And I thought that I had nothing. I thought I had absolute garbage trash in those 2 piles. And so what I've done is I have dropped those 2 boxes off over at Brett's house so that his next week in Magic can be looking through and seeing if there's anything I should put up on our TCG player.
I was actually about to. I was going to sit down, and then my guest showed up. But I will in the next. Yeah, pretty soon I'm going to sit down and go through those because I get a strange comfort from just going through Magic singles. So at some point I'm going to slap a few records on and just go through those giant boxes that are currently sitting on my dining room table. There'll be a few things that are probably worth it in those boxes, and it's I love the hunt. As for me and Magic, it's been quiet this week. I skipped around with Brett, scheduling stuff. I've been grilling outside a lot now, and I now have to schedule my life around when I'm cooking what meat. And apparently, and Arena, I thought everyone was saying Arena had horrendous pre-patch stuff. I actually did a quick game of Arena right before we jumped on the podcast, and it seemed fine, so I don't know if it's as bad as people are saying, if maybe they patched out some of the bugs. But took kind of a week off, mostly just been watching spoilers for the new Commander Legends set, and that is actually what we're going to be talking about first. So, not much for me, but let's talk about Commander Legends. So, for people who are not familiar with it, Commander Legends is an upcoming booster set that is built around Commander and playing Commander in a limited environment. So this was a Gavin Ver. He is kind of the architect of this. At one point, he was discussing with one of the guys from Loading Ready Run. I read the article about the set, and they were talking about how they loved Commander and they loved Limited and they loved drafting. And so Gavin kind of got this idea in his head as he wanted to see if they could combine them. So this set's been kicking around for a while, and so this is a set that the whole point is there's going to be a bunch of new cards for Commander. There's going to be some spicy reprints, and it's going to be a limited format that you can draft. So we're just going to talk about some cards.
Before we jump into that, how do you guys feel about that entire premise? Is that like a good idea, bad idea? What are your individual thoughts on?
Oh Lord, it's an intersection of my 2 favorite Magic formats, which means that I'm gonna hate it probably.
I'm gonna say it's an intersection of 2 of my favorite Magic formats, so I'm going to hopefully love it because it's a multiplayer draft environment. I live with 3 other Magic players, and generally people don't want to do limited, which is understandable because limited's got to. I mean, limited is still pretty open to everyone because you're in the same card pool, similar card pools, same kind of deck building restrictions, but the more experienced player is generally going to build a better deck and win more often. And most of my crew doesn't play a ton of 1v1 Magic, so I am going to buy several boxes of this, and I'm going to make us sit down, and we are going to play this on draft, and everyone's going to have a fun time because it's going to be multiplayer, and everyone's going to love it.
And if they don't, you're turning the car around.
Yes.
You're going back home.
Yeah, you're going to love it. Stop shaking your head right now. You are going to love it. She's going to love it. Everyone's going to love it.
Drafts with you guys so bad.
I'm just saying,
I know, it's like I like Limited.
Oh,
I have like 5 boxes in my closet at this point. I have an unopened Jumpstart box. I have an unopened Mystery Boosters box. I have an unopened Conspiracy and Battle Bond box. I would love, once we could leave the goddamn house, I would love to do some drafts.
Are you gonna live in fear, Brett?
We had a question in chat. What's limited?
Say that with a straight face.
Chat limited is so 2 main ways to play Magic are constructed and limited. Constructed is going to be your standard trading card game format where you build a deck, you construct your deck, and you bring it, and you know the cards. Limited is where you generally get booster packs, and in some combination of either just opening 6 packs and making a deck, or drafting where 8 people sit down, open a pack, take a card, pass it, and you do that with 3 packs. And you build a little 40-card deck, and you play with just what you had in the packs. So it's a pretty popular format, and it's a good way to get newer people in because A, you get cards, and B, it levels the playing field. Mm-hmm. So this is Commander Limited, which is new, and so they had to tweak it a little bit. It's going to be 60 card instead of 100 card. There is not the singleton rule because there is not a 4-of rule in draft, so you can run as much as you can. And they have gone out of their way to make it easy to get in colors and be able to stay in them. So they are printing a lot of uncommon legendaries. They're printing a lot of legends with partner, which lets you have 2 commanders, so you can kind of expand what colors you're in. And they've also just in case they added an button to the format in the form of the Prismatic Piper, which is a 3/3 for 5. That if he is your commander You can choose a color before the game, and the Prismatic Piper is that color, and he has partner. And I believe anyone is allowed to pick Prismatic Piper as their commander, and he replaces the land slot in several packs. So the idea is there will always be several laying around just in case someone wasn't able to get a color they needed, and they draft a bunch of blue things but didn't get a single blue legendary creature. So they've really gone out of their way to make this combine what is good about Commander and still make it hopefully a very functional limited format.
Right. He's also a flex if you want to build a regular Commander deck. With him.
He's a hell of, because he's a bad. Apparently he was originally a 2/2 for 3, but people were kind of running him, so they intentionally made him a 3/3 for 5, so no one would put it in their deck.
Oh man.
But yeah, JC, what are your thoughts? Where are you coming down on this set?
Oh, I'm also excited. I am excited about Commander Legends in general, and I'm excited about a format that is a kind of draft format for it. I think it'll be fun.
I think the solution here is for me to get like my people to all play Magic so that we can have our respective draft.
Because I think 4 people is going to be okay. You take 2 cards from a pack, so it's going to be weird to draft with 4, but I feel like you'll be able to draft with 4 and then sit down and have a couple games with the decks. And Tam, what are your thoughts as an outsider? What are your thoughts when I say what I've said about the set? What springs to mind?
I can tell you that if I had people to play this with, I would for sure be playing it. I think all the cards look great. I think they all look great, as well as the premise seems really cool. The only Magic that I've played like over and over and over again is Commander, right? Like I've actually played like a lot of Commander because of working at Underground. There was just like a bunch of Commander decks just big chilling. And so anytime somebody would come in, there's one person in the store, hey, do you want to play a game? It was always Commander, right? And so like look at some of these legendary creatures, like I would be very excited to play a lot of these. They're very, very cool.
Well, Tam, I'm going to be... Thankfully, this is coming out right on Christmas, so I'm going to endeavor to get multiple boxes of this. I will do my best to get a box set aside, so when we have to stop, we can stop social distancing. We can do a channel draft of this.
I'd be very down for that.
So I will get a box of this set aside for that. Yeah, I mean, this should be fairly well printed. It's pre-ordering at reasonable prices, and so right now it's pre-ordering at reasonable prices. And it's a Commander set. I'm sure they're going to want to print this into the ground. So hopefully this is... I mean, you can still get Modern Horizons boxes from places. So my hope is this is going to be a pretty readily available set. And there's a lot of sweet cards in it. Which, speaking of the sweet cards in it, let's talk about the Lotus in the room. They made Black Lotus, but for Commanders. So, like, for those of you who might not know, the quintessentially, arguably, one of the most broken cards in Magic and the most expensive and rarest card in Magic is Black Lotus, which costs 0, and it's an artifact, and you tap and sack it, and you get 3 mana of any color. It's really good, and is legal in almost nothing. So they made that card, and then just added the text, you can only spend this mana to play your commander. And so
Is that card on the preview page?
No, it got previewed today, so I don't think it's made it up there yet. It was on the subreddit, and everyone on Reddit officially has quit playing Magic, is selling their collection, and the format is now doomed. Thoughts?
So, first thought, even if it were just Black Lotus, that is still arguably the second best card in Commander.
Yeah.
On the whole, I think Sol Ring is a better card than Black Lotus. But considering, I do, like, for real, Sol Ring, I think Sol Ring on the whole, like, all of the Moxen, I think are pretty much on par with Lotus, but I do think Sol Ring is, like, should not be legal in the format. In fact, anyway.
There have been some of those vintage mega drafts on Moto that, like, the pros have sat there with Lotus and Sol Ring pack 1, and it's a decision. It is. I'm actually inclined to agree with you. Please say it. Lily's not insane, but by saying that, I think I'm inclined to agree.
So the only card that's arguably better than Black Lotus is Sol Ring, and that's already legal in the format. I think having it be limited to your commander And the important thing is that it does not assist you in recasting your commander after literally anyone else at the table who has removal will use it to kill your commander that you got out on turn 2 or 3.
Or
Oh,
one.
Just to be fair,
Or one.
because I don't think we said it. Jeweled Lotus costs 0. Tap,
Yep.
sacrifice, add 3 mana of any one color. Use this only to cast your commander.
Yeah, it's so. I'm inclined to agree with Lily. I don't think the sky is falling. I would argue that I don't think we needed this.
No, it's not healthy for the format, but it's like, I mean, a lot of
it's-
what they've been doing in the last year has not been healthy for the format.
It's not the end of days. All this is going to do is make your. So basically, this card says you get to play your commander 2 to 3 turns early. I don't think that's great. The format doesn't need way more explosive ramp, but the whole point of the format being a format with rule 0 where we communicate and where if somebody gets too far ahead, we can dogpile them. It's not going to break the format. And I also don't even necessarily think it's going to be an auto-include in every deck. I think there's
No.
going to be strong arguments to run it in a lot of 1 and 2 color decks. If you lean on your commander, getting your commander out and your commander costs 4 or up, getting your commander out on turn 1 or 2 probably is really good. Like, I certainly have some, like, Ray's got a really pretty solid Azuri deck with some infect stuff. I don't want Azuri in turn 1. I don't think that's going to be great. When Ray does that, we'll probably try to kill Ray. If you draw this card late, it'll help play command tax. This is going to be a nightmare for CEDH, a format that's already dominated by turn 1 through 4 wins. I think this is going to make turn 1 through 4 wins happen more often. And I will bet you anyone any amount of money that the French 1v1 commander people are going to ban this card immediately. Because they banned every other bit of fast mana, as they should, because this would destroy a 1v1 game.
The
It's
card...
not gonna. Sorry, go ahead, JC.
Oh, I just was looking. The Card Kingdom pre-order cost for that card was like $160.
No.
Here's the deal though. It started at 30. This card is never going to be cheap. This is a mythic,
That's true.
and this is going to be a sought-after mythic. It has Lotus in the name. It's a mythic, and it is quite good. Like, we're arguing, it's like, is it the third best card in the whole format? Like, that's the debate we're having. And like, I'm not saying it goes in every deck, but I think there's an argument that it goes in a lot of decks, depending on your.
Most 3-color decks don't want this, I think. Any commander deck that wants you to have established something before you play your commander does not want this.
Maybe doesn't want. I don't know. I mean, it's.
I'm thinking over my commander decks, and I have maybe 2 of my 17 that actually want it.
See, I think this is going to show up in a lot of decks. This card is never going to be cheap unless they reprint it aggressively. So like, no. So the pre-order price went up at 35, and like somebody on Reddit was like, it literally like they got filled, it got posted 20 higher, it got filled, it got posted 20 higher. If you were a lucky person and got this pre-ordered at $35, you're probably sitting pretty. Sheldon already tweeted out that this card isn't getting pre-banned. So I mean, like, even if it is not, I'm not saying it's the end of days. It's real pushed, and the format probably doesn't need it, and it is going to enable some pretty gross stuff. Now, I don't think.
I don't know. I don't know if it's that push. Kind of what like Lily's saying. Like I think Soul Ring is a more problematic card most of the time than this is, and Soul Ring is like in every commander deck ever.
But I mean,
if this gets banned, and Soul Ring still doesn't, like, any amount of respect I have left for the rules committee has vanished.
But here's the argument. So even if it doesn't get banned, if this becomes a card that's in 70% of decks, that's still not good for the format.
I don't think it's going to be in. I think it'll be in 10%.
Soul
of the
Ring's
decks.
in 80% of the decks in the format.
Soul Ring's in more than that, I think.
Yeah,
Soul
I'm being
Ring-
conservative.
But it's, I mean, for Soul Ring's own, I agree with Lily. Soul Ring shouldn't be in the format. That doesn't make the format better. Doing really aggressive, fast stuff doesn't make the like. Here's my thought with the card. You haven't gotten to play my Borb Rigmos deck. It's accidentally really good.
I'm not surprised that anything you put together is accident.
I just
play it. If you fucking let me know, and we can do this fucking spell table thing, but you haven't.
But I haven't done spell tables since the time we did spell table. You got to. I can make Commander happen here. If you want to play Commander, just holla at me. Anyway, but my board deck's really good, and so this card, I look at this card and it says, I look to Ray and Kat and I go, this seems too good. because do you think my Borb deck needs me to have Borb 3 turns earlier? And the answer was a resounding no. I don't need to have Borb 3 turns earlier. I already have Borb earlier than I should, and good things never happen to my opponent once Borb hits the battlefield. He's either kill on sight, and if he's not killed, I generally will start winning very fast. And so any commander that once it hits the board, you start winning very fast, just picture how your deck works now, and then picture the commander hitting 3 turns earlier. Because that's the thing. Oh, go ahead.
I think most commanders that generate their own game is ending now kind of scenario, this is going to be something you put in. But outside of those situations, I don't think you run this.
I think if you can get a good amount of value, having your commander in play should be really advancing your gameplay, your game plan, I should say. I don't know. I think this is a very I think this is a very playable card, and I think if you are looking at making your decks as good as possible or very good, this is a card that you have to ask yourself, why am I not running it? And the answer can be, I run too many colors, I don't need my commander out on turn 3, or I don't want my deck to be too good. But the question is, why are you not running this card? I think this is a card that has that question immediately asked.
That's fair.
I mean, I think even in multicolor decks too, like if you have a creature that has a high casting cost, I think that's still like, why am I not running this?
Sure.
Maelstrom Wanderer. So Maelstrom Wanderer hitting on turn 6 is really unpleasant. Now Maelstrom Wanderer is hitting on turn 3. And that's the question of like, if somebody plays out there, so let's play, I'm gonna put one in Yawgmoth because my Yawgmoth deck's really good, and I like making my Yawgmoth deck as good as I can make it. Turn 1 Yawgmoth is now a thing that happens. But like, there's just a lot of like higher cost commanders, and it's like if I play Yawgmoth and you kill it, you're right. I played a card from my hand. You played your Path to Exile, and it's answered. But if I play a turn 3 Maelstrom Wanderer and get 2 Cascade triggers, are you coming back from that?
Are you running Dark Ritual in your Yawgmoth deck?
I'm not.
Because
but I
if
might.
You're gonna run this, you should run Dark Ritual.
But I can't turn 1 Dark Ritual Yawgmoth out.
Right, but you can turn 2. Like,
I probably ought to be running Dark Ritual in Yawgmoth. I think that's a fair argument, but
I think a lot of times the card is not going to be worth the 3 mana. Like, I think it's fine. I think it's going to be fine. I think it looks very scary because it looks like Black Lotus. But I think this is a worse card than Lionside Diamond.
And also, just pointing this out, like Fidu said, is it a problem if it's a one of? And that's what we're talking about at the end of the day. It's a one of card in a multiplayer game that, you get turn 1 commanders off, and it's really good. But I don't think it's bannable, and I don't think it's anything to get too huffy about.
It's not bannable if Sol Ring's not bannable. I will absolutely agree with that sentiment.
This is worse than Sol Ring.
I don't want this to just be let's talk about this Lotus. We have some really exciting cards in this. We have they printed Crack, the Thumbless.
Kark.
Is it Kark?
I might be wrong.
I hate random effects.
It's Kraerk.
Yeah, Krark.
Krark the Thumbless. It's not in the image gallery, which is breaking my heart. They printed a card I could not be more excited for.
I told you, JC.
They printed. It is. I'm going to butcher this name. It's a kobold, and it is Rogha, son of Rogha. He is a 0/1 for 0. He is a red kobold warrior with first strike, menace, trample, and partner. This is harkening back to Kobolds of Cairkeep, which was a 0/1 for 0 kobold, and there's a couple other cards that care about kobolds. This card is not wildly good. This card is not too pushed. This card is so exciting.
Okay, so I think so of any of the cards they previewed so far, this is the one card that exists in a space that nothing has existed before.
Oh, that's horrible. You can't see that at all. I'm so sorry, viewer.
I've got him pulled up, buddy.
He exists in a place where there's not been a commander that costs 0. We do not know what kind of problems a commander that costs 0 can cause the format yet.
And the exciting part, slash scary part, is we can combine him with any other colors because he has partner.
Can I push my campaign right now to make Ornithopter a legendary?
We do have a legendary Thopter. It does not cost 0.
Costs 1. To be fair, Ornithopter could be legendary and have an additional word on it.
Yeah, like
We just demonstrated that.
Flash.
That'd be fine. Oh my gosh. I mean, without partner, it would be mega nup. I mean, this card, it's one of those cards that's like, it's really exciting for people who want to do just kind of the obviously basic, like, this is a great Voltron commander, and you get to kill people with a Kobold. It's very fun and flavorful. There's also some really dumb stuff you can do with Cloudstone Curio. Oh god, we broke Cloudstone Curio. Whatever will we do?
No.
There are also some other nice things that are really cool. There are a lot of cards that they're printing that care about how many times you've cost your commander. So all of those, like that, the Commander Storm cards got really cool because those were already really sweet with partner, and now you've got a partner that costs 0. Once you're paying 2 mana for a 0/1 with some keywords, that's bad.
Right.
But like, you can make your deck work with that, and like, I'm going to build him. I don't know who the partner is, but like, I am so excited by this card. Like, I saw this card, and my interest level went from like, yeah, there's cool stuff to just immediately like, boom. Which partner am I picking? What am I doing with this dumb fucking Kobold? Because I am so excited. Other cards. Do people have other cards?
Yeah,
Things that
Kolfener.
pump for. Oh, Kolfener? Yeah, we got Kolfener today, right?
It's like a combo-ier Carador.
And a less combo he gave.
Right.
Oh, he's not on the page either. Because unfortunately they didn't update the. You could, Tam, if you're not seeing these cards, you can go over to the Mythic Spoiler.
I
Like,
think
we're probably going to replace Carador with Kolfener and actually make it an interesting deck instead of just a really good deck.
Oh god, so Kolfener was
The
sweet.
last you.
Yeah, he's a tree. He's a treeman.
He's a tree
She,
folk.
I'm pretty sure.
Also, we're getting a ton of old characters. So we have a Jessica Planeswalker. How do you pronounce it?
Kolfener's an old character.
No, absolutely. I was talking about some old walkers too. We're getting some old walker cards. Yeah, Kolfener's old. Is it Tevish Zat? Is that how you pronounce it?
Zot, I think it's how you
Tevish
say it.
Zat. He's a
Zat.
real sweet card. He's a part.
Like-
They printed. Oh, go ahead.
Make the Z and then start to say the first part of T. Zot.
Yeah. That sounds right. They're printing 5 monocolored walkers. I think they're doing all walkers, but he's a monocolor walker with partner. So he costs 5 mana. He's black and 4 loyalty plus 2. You get to create 2 0/2 black thrall creatures plus 1. You can sack another creature, planeswalker. If you do, you draw 2 cards. Then you draw another card if the sacrificed permanent was a commander. And then -10 is you gain control of all commanders and put all commanders from the command zone onto the battlefield under your control. It's such a cool card.
Wow.
Mhm.
I love planeswalkers. I love
my
partner.
My favorite thing, the thing I'm very excited for, we get a Kaladesh art for Mindless Automaton.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's getting reprinted.
Right.
just so
One
busy
of my
looking at
favorite
these
artifact
mythics.
creatures. It is very combo-y.
As long as it's not Workhorse. Did you see Wheel of Misfortune?
No.
It is. We only have a rough translation, so it is a 1 red and 2 sorcery. Wheel of Misfortune. Each player secretly chooses a number, then reveals those numbers. Wheel of Misfortune deals damage equal to the greatest chosen number to each player that chose it. Then each player who didn't choose the smallest number discards their hand and draws 7 cards.
I love that. I haven't quite parsed what it does.
So everybody picks a number, and then the people who picked the highest number take that much damage, and everyone who didn't pick the lowest number, and actually I think you so and then so whoever picked the highest, whoever tied for the highest takes that much damage, and then everyone except the person who picked the lowest number wheels. So if you need to wheel, you're going to wheel. If you don't want to wheel your hand, you can pay 0. You won't win, and you won't have to wheel your hand.
Wait.
I'm so
I need
excited
to
for this
see
card.
this
I'm so
to
excited for this
comprehend
card.
it, so.
And also the translation might be wrong. We're not sure because
Yeah,
somebody
this
said.
is a card where the translation absolutely matters.
Well, some random on Reddit translated it, so.
Okay.
I'm
There's a
excited
lot of cool
for
pirates in
possibly
this.
one of the best swords.
Say again, JC.
I'm excited for possibly one of the best swords ever printed.
Seventh best sword.
Seventh best? Ouch.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's
Sir,
graphic greatsword.
Yeah, that one's sweet. I would say it's better than the red black, sort of.
No, you can get it in a multiplayer game. You can get a ton of value out of the red black one.
Well, I think you're going to get a ton of value. Either way, I'm with JC. This is one of the. I love equipment. I have multiple equipment decks. Very jazzed. And Tam, you mentioned pirates. Yeah, they are pushing a pirate sub theme, and we're getting a ton of new pirate legendary creatures.
I love it.
We're getting Monarch cards back too.
Yes,
It's a good mechanic.
Monarch is such a good mechanic. We're also getting Encore, which seems really cool, and I really like they're already playing with the design space in cool ways. Let me read you all an Encore card. So
I'm very
Encore,
unimpressed by Encore.
I mean, I don't think we need a million cards, but I think it's kind of fun. So Encore, is an additional cost, is a separate cost from the casting cost. You exile it from your graveyard by paying the Encore cost. And then for each opponent, you create a token copy of the creature that attacks that opponent this turn able. They gain haste, and then you sack it at the beginning of the next end step. And you can only do it as a sorcery. So, like,
Right.
an example, so we have Amphin Mutineer. He's a 3/3 for 4, 1 blue and 3. When Amphin Marauder enters the battlefield, exile up to one target non-salamander creature. That creature's controller creates a 4/3 blue salamander warrior creature token. So you can pay a 3/3 for 4, exile a creature, give somebody a salamander. Or you can pay the Encore from 6 once it's in your yard and do it 3 times. So I don't know. I think the Encore is cool. They do. There's a few that they've done some interesting things with dies triggers. So the baseline creature has to die to get the value, but then you'll get 3 death triggers off the Encore, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Like, I think it'd be fine if we get. I don't know. I'm just very. It's like, okay, it's an Earth, but
It's Commander on Earth.
so I mean, if we get like a Prince of Thralls for this, like, great.
This is not a mechanic that is riddled with design space, but like make 10, 15 cards of it in the Commander set, move on, it's probably fine.
It's fine. It's like the mechanic that, like, when it attacked, you made a copy of it for each opponent that it was.
Yeah,
I should remember this.
starts
Jason
with
knows.
a C. Starts with a C. Can't think of it, but it's like that mechanic, but with more design space. Because I like that they've really and they're really leaning into the dice triggers on these, which I think is cool.
Yeah, good.
Because those other ones you're talking about, like that cycle, those were not very pushed. Those were like generally like vanilla creatures that you got extra out of, which was
Myriad.
fine.
There we go. Myriad.
Myriad didn't start with a C. Don't know where that came from. JC, what's a card or two you're pumped for? So you got the Great Sword. What else?
Besides the greatsword, Verna, the Chaos Bloom. Dig that. It's green, blue, red. Elemental Shaman Commander 4/2. It's got as you cascade, you may put a land card from among exiled cards onto the battlefield tapped.
Yes, it's a Cascade commander that's not broken as hell.
Commander. Yeah, it's cool.
It's not.
It's good, but the card in the command zone doesn't have Cascade, so you have to run other
That's
Cascade
true.
cards.
And
Oh.
generally, on the whole, Cascade cards are bad.
Yeah, and Averna itself doesn't have Cascade. It's
Yes.
just modifying Cascade.
So I
It's
think
also a
there's
free cost commander.
like it's she's as cheap as she can be. I think there's a lot of people who really like Cascade, and Cascade's another
I
mechanic.
like Cascade. I think it's a cool mechanic, but yeah, like there's not a lot of cards that it's good on.
Or the problem is you run Maelstrom Wanderer and it's too good, and then you just Cascade your whole deck. So like,
So, like, Maelstrom Wanderer would be a worse card if he was like a 5/2 for 5.
yeah, Maelstrom Wanderer costing 8, and then letting you Cascade twice. I mean, I feel like Maelstrom Wanderers get too good. Maelstrom Wanderer decks get too good too fast, and even that like Maelstrom Wanderer plus black 4-color guy they made, giving any card Cascade is really probably too strong. Having a deck where you want to run all of the cards that say Cascade feels more balanced, feels more fun, and look
Yeah.
it seems like a really nice design. There are people out here, out in the world, who are excited for this card, and I'm very happy for those people.
And also, like, it's a thing that doesn't like directly, like, if it was like whenever you cascade twice, that directly impacts like the power of cascade. Whereas this, like, you getting lands, I think, is undercutting some of the weaknesses of cascade without making it better at what it already does well.
Yeah,
no.
I agree. I think it adds value to Cascade without making Cascade like particularly broken, and it increases the value of a lot of Cascade. I like Cascade as a mechanic, but it's hard to run Cascade decks because there's not a lot of good Cascade cards.
By
And,
design,
yeah,
I mean,
and by design, and I like that they printed this, and
and on the whole,
excited.
they're a little better if they cost more.
Oh yeah, and then they're also printing a lot of new Cascade cards in the set, which is just overall.
I think that 7/7 for 8 golem should have just cost X, and then like came into play with like X +1/+1 counters or whatever.
that would have been cute. I think that's a good idea.
That's a design that like I think they should have done. I don't know, like
The problem with that is there's so many cards that already do bullshit things with Cascade. I don't think we want to give Legacy a modular Cascade card.
that's cool though. Like the design is so good.
I feel like an accident. That's one of those. You know when you design a card and you ask if it looks okay, and I say this looks absolutely fine, but this might somehow ruin Legacy or Vintage. I'm just not sure. I feel like that design falls into the category. Say again.
When have I ever done that?
So many times. So many times. You'll make a
So-
good card, and then I'll go like, "But Lily, I think this just ruined Legacy."
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead, Tam.
So last question before I think we have to move on to the next topic. How do you guys feel about the lands that say they come in tapped if you have 2 or more opponents?
So this is actually the completion of a cycle that was started in Battle Bond. So we had 5 of these, and this is giving us the other 5, and these have been much asked for, and stuck with the flavor and kept them on Kylem, which is my personally favorite plane. So I am super happy we have the full cycle of Battle Bond lands, and I love Kylem. It's like WWE but Magic. It's like wrestling. They just have arena tournaments and nobody dies. They just have magic fights and it's over the top.
Like,
and so
you know, Tam, you know that like the arc of the anime that's the fighting tournament? That's the whole plane.
That's cool.
And so yeah, spectator seating. So basically, these are really nice lands for multiplayer, and like they're almost as good as dual lands, except they don't have basic land types. Like they almost always come into play untapped. It's a nice balancing factor. There's no way they're ever going to hurt in a non-multiplayer format. No, I love these cards. I love that they did the ones we already had printed as Zendikar Expeditions. These are cards that need. My only complaint about these cards is they need to be in every single commander deck.
Right.
Whenever they print one.
And fun fact, these are the cycle of lands that made Brett realize he's black-red.
Yes. One of my favorite land in the game is Luxury Suite. It is the black-red part of the cycle, and I for a long time I really did not like playing most black cards because I just don't like the aesthetic of most black stuff. It's like I'm not that into zombies. I don't really want to torture anybody to death. But when they pitched Luxury Hotel Room, oh, that's red-black too? Okay, maybe I am red-black. So it was an important moment in my Magic career. So big fan of these lands. Big fan.
I really like that training center art. It's got like people in like 3 bubbles, like doing
It's got
It's
training stuff.
it's
I don't
got
know.
the-
I don't know why it strikes me so well, but I like it.
It makes me think of like
It's
that scene.
tournament arc of an anime.
It's
Yeah,
the
pretty much.
It's the prep scene from Hunger Games, where they've got to do like here's like the practice room for Hunger Games. That's what it kind of looks like from the movie.
Or it's like literally where Vulcan children learn things.
That's also true. Yeah.
God.
An underground stadium spectator seating. The white blue land is the cheap seats. Not the white blue. The blue red land is the cheap seats, and I love that. The loudest and most heartfelt cheers come from the cheap seats. It literally says cheap seats on the card. God damn, I love this set.
And I like the white black land and the just it looks like it's just a vault of like champions. I don't know. Like I like how I've seen so many white cards the more Magic I've played that are so much more horrifying than like the black cards that I see.
Oh, really quick, I want to throw one final factoid in about these lands. So the second when these lands were designed, this cycle of them were immediately slotted into Commander Legends when BattleBond was getting worked on. The second BattleBond got previewed, people have been haranguing Wizards. When are we going to see the other 5? We want them, we want them, we want them. So literally since the inception of the lands, they've been planned to be released, but they can't tell us that. So Gavin has had to regularly field questions, be like, we know you want them, maybe sometime. And he was finally able to go like, they are in this set, they are at rare. So
I don't envy WotC's designers. Like, as much as we rag on the company, like, the designers are fine. And
there's people who love the game. Oh, yeah. No, I mean, as someone who did say a lot of horrible things about, what's his name? VP. Totally blanking on his name right now. Anyway. Fyndhorn Elves reprint. Sorry. Anyway.
A funny thing about the lands,
is
just
super cool.
So,
Lily first.
Oh, just Fyndhorn Elf reprint. That's super cool.
Aaron Forsyth. I was shitting on Aaron Forsyth. Go ahead, JC.
Oh, just from playing a lot of Chandelar, which has a lot of the broken old cards in it. I can't help but think when I look at these cards, like one of my first thoughts is like, they just don't print them like they did like Badlands and stuff anymore, do they?
Literally can't.
Yeah. Alrighty, we are going to kick it to a quick commercial break, and then when you come back, audience, you get to watch all of us tell Tam why he's wrong about Mana Screw. We'll be back in just a sec, everybody.
This episode of Study Hall is sponsored by InkedGaming.com. Are you looking to get a custom playmat? Well, then we suggest you check out InkedGaming.com. They have custom playmats, dice bags, mouse pads, and so much more. They even recently added a stitch option to their playmats and mouses as well. Inked Gaming lets you play your game with your style. And if you want 10% off your entire order, use the code TCG University, all caps, no spaces at checkout, to help support us by customizing your game to your style. Cards Custom Build. Are you into cosplay? Looking to get into cosplay? Do you want to show up to events dressed as your favorite character? Well, then Cards Custom Build can help. Cards Custom Build creates everything from cosplay accessories like props, trinkets, weaponry, all the way up to full-blown costumes. Do you want your costumes made from a perfectly flowing cloth or maybe a rigid battle armor? Well, Cards Custom Build has you covered. Their work is guaranteed to make you the talk of the con. So go over to Cards Custom Build either on Facebook or on their Etsy account. Links will be in the description down below. And make sure you mention that TCG University sent you their way and you'll get 5% off your entire order. Dex Protection is on a never-ending pursuit to create the highest quality storage and protection accessories. Their designs and innovation come from diehard gamers and collectors just like you. So they know what you want in the products that you buy. They're constantly taking in feedback from their customers, and they have no plans of stopping their innovation or drive to refine the products until they are recognized as a leader in their industry. They make terrific products, all with the avid gamer and collector in mind. So go ahead, check them out. A link will be in the description down below. This episode is sponsored by Nuclear Ink Custom Tattoo and Skate Shop. At Nuclear Ink, you'll find a very inclusive environment with artists that share your interest in nerd culture and fandoms alike. Nuclear Ink pride themselves on being Omaha's premier all-custom tattoo shop. So, if you're looking to get a custom tattoo, please check out Nuclear Ink here in Omaha, Nebraska. A link will be in the description down below.
Welcome back, everybody, and we're going to wrap the show up today by talking about something that I feel like has come up semi-regularly, but we want to really make sure we're going to delve into it. And if we've covered it before, deal with it. Time is meaningless. Time is meaningless in this pandemic. So, we're going to talk about Mana Screw, and something that is, and for those of you who don't know, so in Magic, our resources is land, and lands produce mana, and several other things produce mana as well. And you don't auto-generate lands or mana. You have to play lands and other things that produce mana if you want to cast your spells. So unlike Hearthstone, which just gives you a mana crystal a turn, Universes, if I'm not mistaken, you can just play anything face down as a fortification if you want to.
No, but so you play more than one land per turn.
That's right.
Yeah, you can play and you draw up to your hand size, which could all the way be up to like 7, right? So it's possible you draw 7 lands a turn. On your turn 1, you build 7 lands. On your second turn, you could draw 7 lands and then play all 7 again.
So if you're short on fortifications or whatever, you could pitch your hand and say, I'm going to keep drawing till I get what I need in my next turn or whatever.
For Universes?
Correct. For Universes.
No, you get 1 mulligan to put on the bottom of your deck, draw, shuffle, and then that's it.
But at the end of your turn, you can discard anything you don't want, right?
At the before you draw up to your hand size, you discard 1 card if you'd like.
Oh, 1 card. Okay. So, but there's ways to get land into your hand.
Tons, like a ton.
And so in the WoW trading card game was one that you could play any card down as a mana source, and then they had special mana sources. Yu-Gi-Oh! I know you sack creatures to get bigger creatures out there, and a lot of cards are just free. I'm basing this on a television program I watched 15 years ago. So
yeah, no, you're good.
But Magic is... go ahead.
Duel Masters also specifically bears mentioning because it was Wizards of the Coast in Japan. Duel Masters also lets you put any of your cards as a land, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, it's the same kind of face down, it's a land sort of thing.
Yep.
Okay.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So Magic obviously does not have that, and Mark Rosewater, the lead designer of Magic, argues that one of there's several things, maybe I think it's 3, there's a handful of things that have made Magic be so popular, and he argues that one of the things that has made the game so popular is Mana Screw or Mana Flood, which is either not getting enough or getting too much. And I think generally my understanding is I think JC and Lily agree with me that it sucks when it happens, but it's generally a good thing for the game. Is that correct, JC, Lily? I don't want to put words in your mouth.
I could be swayed on this one.
Okay. So Tam is the outsider here. And Tam, my understanding is you don't love the idea of Mana Screw. Let's unpack that.
I do not. Well, okay, so it all started back in my childhood, right? But no, I mean, honestly, it did. I come from a Yu-Gi-Oh background where the idea of being quote unquote mana screwed is not. You could equate it to like not drawing your combo pieces, but like you can't just like auto lose games because you draw too many dudes and not enough ways to make your dudes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when it comes to you have the same issue in the Pokemon trading card game where if you don't draw your energies, they're gone. And then even worse, if you do draw your energies and then your opponent KOs your Pokemon, imagine if you lost your creature, you played your mana, it then goes to your discard pile, right? It's not a reusable resource.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, having not played these kind of games, when I jump into Magic and I see that sometimes during a draft, as somebody who's very, very brand new to the game, I would, like, not know how many lands to put in. Oh, I put 10 lands in my deck. Oh, that's not enough. Well, I put 20 lands in my deck. That's way too much. And so, like, not having the outside knowledge of, like, even to this point right now, like, I'm sitting on a Magic podcast. I've been on a Magic podcast for, what, 6 months? I have no idea how many lands I'm supposed to be playing. I think the number's, like, 16, right? 16 to 18?
About a third to 40%, 33 to 40% of your deck size, depending on what kind of deck you're playing, is the general answer.
33% is very low. For, like, the first 15 years of Magic's life, nobody knew how many lands to actually run.
Right. And so as somebody who is, like, not crazy and not, I don't want to say invested because, like, obviously I'm on the podcast and doing all this stuff, but as somebody who's, like, new, as somebody who's very new, it is not a good feeling to, like, draw my hand and be like, oh, this isn't enough, mulligan. It's not enough, mulligan. Okay? Or conversely, all right, I've got all this mana, and then I keep drawing mana. Like the reason I lost the game was not because my deck failed me, but because of true randomness of shuffling. Right? And that just doesn't feel good. And that's why Tam doesn't like it.
And I also think there's the reason that I feel kind of sway on it is, like, conversely, if you win, you don't feel like you won because, like,
right,
you built better than the other person. You won because they got screwed.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And I don't think anyone is going to sit down and argue that it's a great game when someone gets 7 mana in their opening hand, or somebody gets 1, or you have to mulligan to 4 before you have something that's keepable. Nobody likes that. But I'll have my argument mainly focuses on 2 points. One of said points is, and this also is, other card games are affected by this because we randomly shuffle our decks up. We're never just stacking our decks out. But
we're supposed to randomly shuffle our decks, pile shufflers.
Yeah. Oh, that's a whole different post-show comment. I have a whole thing on that. But one of the reasons that chess isn't super easy to get into, or high-tier fighting games like we were discussing in the pre-show, is a new player a new player who's just starting Tekken or Smash Bros. Melee or chess is never going to beat an expert. It's just not going to happen. You just don't know this stuff. So, obviously your deck being in a random order is a certain amount of variance, but having those variables come in is going to make the game more random. The best players in the world at Magic, their win rates are like 65% of games. And so it really opens that up. And why that doesn't seem appealing, and in the very intense ends of the bell curve with none or all of it, the games are really crappy. More often than not, Magic games are impacted of, oh, did I make my 4th land drop, my 5th land drop? So there's randomness, and this is kind of transitioning to my second argument, or my second argument in favor of it is a separate resource system, and having to build your deck and move through your deck and draw cards and interacting with very common mechanics like Scry, where we're sending cards to the bottom or deciding to keep them on top, open up a lot of strategic areas. And I like the gameplay of, okay, I've got 3 lands in my opening hand, so this is probably a keepable hand. But then it's what are my plans? I need to hit my 4th land drop. I need to hit my 5th. Do I need to prioritize putting pressure on the board? Do I need to prioritize trying to get some card advantage so I can make sure I can hit all my land drops? Because it's a whole extra system, there's a whole extra in-depth layer. And while that layer sucks when it's I have 1, I have 7, when I have 4 and I really need to get to 6, that's when it stops being as sucky and starts getting to be an interesting component to the game.
Also, I
Go ahead.
think there is an element to the mana system that lets you build a deck differently than if you for sure got like 1 every turn, like in Hearthstone. Like, you can run like 19 lands in your deck where most of the things cost 1 or 2 mana, and you're all gas. And that's one of the benefits of running lower cost cards, is because you don't have to worry about hitting your 6th or 7th land drop or your 5th or 6th, because you just have so many cheap things. Like, that is a gameplay element that is not afforded to other games where you just, well, I'm going to hit 5 anyway. I need something to cast when I'm at 5 that's going to be relevant in the game.
Yeah.
Like, that's a thing that's in other games that in Magic, you can be like, well, I don't need to hit my 5th land drop. I'm just going to focus on winning in the first 4 turns.
I think
Or not running any lands, actually.
Oh, that's a whole extra thing. JC, what are your thoughts?
I do think it gives some design space around like getting more interesting mana rocks and ways to accelerate mana and stuff too that wouldn't otherwise be in a design space of a game where this was not a problem.
It's design space, and it's also deck building space too, because something that's interesting is control decks will normally run 26, 27, 28 lands in a 60 card deck, where that aggro deck Lily mentioned, you might be greedy and you might be running 18. I've run decks with 17 lands in 60 card decks and some of those really aggressive decks. And so it gives you a little more. So like if you're building, and I'm not here to shit on Hearthstone. I love Hearthstone. I played Hearthstone for a very long time. And there are aggro decks in Hearthstone and there are control decks in Hearthstone, but they have different, but Hearthstone, outside of ramp cards, which I know like Druid has some ramp, the aggro deck is going to get 1 mana every turn up to turn 10, and the control deck is going to do the same thing. And so you have to do a little bit more in the card design to make those archetypes there. While in Magic, you can leave some of that to how the player is going to build their deck. A card that might be a curve topper in that aggro deck, that same card might be the middle of the road mid-range card, or it might be something the control deck is planning to play out after they played 5 lands or something.
Right.
Let me make the comparison to another card game that I'm learning to play at the same time as I'm like diving into Magic. A little less so, but I watch way more of the Final Fantasy trading card game matches than I do watching Magic. Right?
How does that work?
And here's the way that they have it. So there are 2 types of cards. You've got forwards, which are dudes, and you've got backups, which are your lands. At the start of your turn, you draw 2 cards every turn, and any card in your hand can be discarded for 2 mana, and it doesn't float, right? So if you have a 1-cost card, the first way that you play your card, your first backup costs mana. You can discard a card. It produces 2 of the color of the card that was discarded, and you can place your backup. And now you have a committable, tappable land to now produce more things. So if I want to play a 3-cost card, I will then tap my 1 land and then discard a card. I've now produced 2 from my hand and 1 from the land, and now I've played it. It's not possible to get mana screwed in the Final Fantasy trading card game, but you certainly can lose your whole hand. I want to play this 6-drop. I have to discard 3 cards because I don't have the backups to play it, right?
Interesting.
But at no point will I look at my hand and go, well, I don't get to play a card. I get to play this card, but it puts me in a way worse position. But I'm still actively doing something, which is a thing that can happen inside of Magic. One of my least favorite feelings when it comes to the idea of mana screw or mana flood is, I'm in this clutch position. Here it is. Your turn.
So
this is the time. It's the heart of the cards. Everything's on the line. I'll play this mountain I just drew. Pass.
okay, so I'm going to pick apart a couple things on that.
Please do.
So in this game, why is it better for your player to not realize that they lost because they didn't draw? Like you were talking about, like discarding 3 cards to play your 6-drop thing, right?
Right.
That's going to put you in a situation where you're probably going to lose, right? In most cases.
Correct. In most cases, from everything that I've seen, realize I'm not an expert at Final Fantasy.
Why is it better, design-wise, to hide that from the player, to make the player feel like they're dumb instead of giving them an out to blame to continue playing the game? Because the game is fun, but I just had a bad run. Like the whole gambling element of, well, next time it's going to be good. Like, out of 100 games, out of 1,000 games, out of 10,000 games,
right,
we're going to see the same thing happen in each of these 2 prospective games, right?
Sure.
Right. So even considering that, why is it better to hide the fact that randomness caused the player to lose from the player?
Well, the thing is randomness did cause me to lose, but at least I got to sit there and attempt to play my cards, right?
Okay, but
at least I got to make them happen, and the point of the game is to play the cards.
Right, but what I'm saying is the fact that the player felt like they were in control of that situation and lost anyway is a bad thing.
It can be bad.
So in the situation with Magic, they can say, well, I just lost because I got mana screwed, but they don't feel like they lost because of their own inability to play properly. Because in Magic, there's similar situations that arise where you can play around mana screw in a particular way. You can build around mana screw.
You can learn to mulligan.
Right. But in Magic, because there's not this opacity to the randomness, it is easy for a player to say, well, that game I lost because of bad luck. Let's shuffle up and let's go again. Whereas in these other games, they might feel like, well, this game just isn't fun.
Or here's the other thing, or it's too hard.
Right, or I'm just bad at it.
It's nice in Magic, and there's a distinct possibility that part of the reason that Magic has lasted so long and been so popular is that you can blame something other than yourself. Most of the time, it is probably your fault you lost.
Right.
But you don't have to accept that. And this isn't to be a dick. When you're learning a new game, having the out to say, oh, sometimes you get mad, and sometimes you do. Sometimes your deck just doesn't go in the right order.
Right.
It's a nice thing to have, to just go like, ugh, I didn't get there. Yeah. Sometimes you just don't have the mana, and then you just move on, and you can take that loss that would maybe eat away at you. And like for universes, Universes is really complicated the first time you learn it, and you've talked to me about how you generally teach people to play with fortifications not having text.
Right.
When I was playing Universes, I felt like every time I lost, it was because you were way better than me.
Well,
it's true.
Yeah. Because I'm a god, and it's actually insane. I'm the best player in the whole wide world.
I mean, like,
don't watch the other show. Don't do that.
I was playing the little Chun-Li starter deck or whatever, and I'm trying to do it, and it's just like, I'm looking at these cards, it's like, if I got this better, I feel like I could move towards victory. And having Magic have a button that just went like, when I lost, it's like, shit. Didn't see that 4th land, or didn't see that 3rd green I needed. Oh well, it's nice to have, and I think there's thing that's helped Magic. One other thing I want to throw out there is I know most games have some kind of element system. So like Hearthstone, you lock your class in that picture card. The nice thing about the mana system in Magic is it's so open ended because in universes it's like Commander. Your fighter will have elements and you have to build out of those elements, right?
Without getting too into it, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The nice thing about Magic is they don't have to say, well, you can't run more than 2 colors. Run whatever you want, but you gotta pay for it.
Right.
And so if you're new and you want something simple, the nice thing in Magic is like when you're teaching me universes, the best way to do it is to take a couple of rules out of the game. If I'm going to teach you Magic, I'm just going to give you a mono green deck.
Right.
And it's easier to learn, and you're not going to get mana screwed. You're not going to worry. You didn't keep a hand with both of your colors. You should have thought about that. It's simple, and so it's simple for new people. And it's also, if I want a straightforward deck, I can build in 1 color. Or you can live in the world where, like, I'm going to build 5 color, or in draft, I'm going to splash 2 lands so I can run this card because this percent of the time it'll work. So it gives you all these tactical choices. But it also, if you want to ignore all of that, you can say, I'm going to run mono green. And so obviously the color pie is its own separate reason that Magic is good.
Right.
But the land system enables that amount of free-form play. And obviously it's not bad to limit your colors. Commander's a popular format for a reason. This is not me shitting on other card games. It's just... Well, you get the negatives of mana screw and mana flood, but you get the positives of all this freedom.
For sure.
There's 2 elements to this, I think, that are important with the mana system in Magic. There is emergent restriction rather than designed restriction, right? It's like, well, should I run this card that costs green, green, green in my green-black deck? Well, I could, but I probably don't want to. That's a decision I have to make. That's the emergent restriction. Nobody's telling me I can't, but should I?
Can I? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I thought you're done.
Oh, no, that was the first thing. It's emergent restriction. And then the second thing is it is transparent randomness. It is, like I was talking about before, it makes it very well known when it didn't go well because you didn't draw what you needed. It gives you like someone to blame.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Tim. You've been waiting.
So I want to pivot slightly, and I really want you to empty your cup, okay? I would have way more fun with Magic thank you, Brett, for emptying the cup. I would have way more fun with Magic if there's literally 10 million lands that exist in the ethos of the world, right? If part of the game was in your... in the same spot that the what was the partner cards?
Command Zone?
Not the Command Zone, the ones that we don't like.
Companion.
Companion Zone, right. If you had a stack of whatever lands that you wanted, and after you're untapped before you draw, you got to choose to take any basic land that you wanted from that spot and put it into play and not draw a card. And so your deck was creatures and enchantments and whatever, no lands. But instead of drawing a card, you got to play a land. Would Magic be more fun? So as opposed to in Hearthstone, every time you do draw a card and you get that extra mana, but you now get to make the choice of, okay, with my hand before I get to draw, I now have an extra, I've opting not to draw and increase my hand size to grab a land. Because that's all drawing 1 land is, right? Is I'm keeping my hand size the same to draw a land. Would it be more fun? Would it open up game design more? Would my hurt feelings of, man, I have drawn 4 forests in a row, and I have a 7-drop creature or whatever. Like I don't have this thing, so I'm in a little more control of the game plan that's happening.
I want JC. JC, you've got something. So I have an answer, Tim, but I want to make sure JC gets a chance here.
Magic does have an amount of cards that have alternate casting costs, and I think it might be good if they keep making cards with alternate casting costs. Not like a huge amount of them, but like to your point, so that you're not doing nothing all the time. That like maybe you'll get like 1 or 2 of those if you build like sufficient amounts where you could alternately cast, so you're doing stuff. You
so
know,
and some
you
some
still
quick
feel like you're playing the game.
some quick examples like modal dual face cards that have a land on one side. Cycling cards with colorless cycling. So that's a great way to do it. So you're really digging for that something. But when they put 1 and 2 mana cyclers on cards, the card costs 6. I can pay 2 to discard it, draw a card, keep it moving. And then in the reverse whale, I'm flooding out things like kicker. So most sets they'll design with cards with mechanics to either let you use extra mana or to use your card quicker and have different versions of it. So that's definitely something they lean into to kind of take it to try and solve some of those problems.
Okay.
Or like even just like pay to life and stuff like that. I mean, you see it.
Sure. So,
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
so
Lily.
Tam, what was the question you were asking specifically?
Do you think that the game would be more fun if, as opposed to a Hearthstone or Force of Will, every turn you got a mana and you drew a card, you got to choose to not draw the card and then pick whatever land that you wanted and put it on the board. So you keep the same hand size and then it comes out.
So the short answer is no, I don't think it would be funner. And here's why.
Mhm.
I think you would lose more often because of reasons you could control. Well, okay. So you would not probably lose more games, but you would feel like you lost more because you were bad, and you would not. So for some people, feeling like you're bad at the game is a crucible that like makes them into a better player. But unless you're a Spike, if you feel like, well, you just aren't smart enough to play this game, you're not going to keep fucking playing the game. You're going to find a game that you feel like you are smart enough to play. Magic is good at making people feel like they're smart enough to play properly.
And something that I think there's a really easy there's a very easy answer to your question, Tam. No, I don't think so, because if that was the best way to play, they would have just made people would have made a format and done it. And they have to a degree. There's called like Wizard Tower, where like there's 400 cards in a stack, and you can choose to draw from the tower or choose to draw from any basic
That's
land.
like a drunk party game.
So like there are versions of that, but if that was the best way of playing Magic, people would do it. It's one of those things, and I don't want this to be condescending, and I'm not saying Magic has the best system, but I think Magic has the best system for Magic. The mana system is broccoli. You don't think you want it. You think you just want to eat candy, but it's good for you.
I love that analogy.
On a minor level, there are moment to moment bad plays in Magic because of the mana system. But if you pull out to the macro level and look at how the game functions and break into those things that Lily was talking about with all of the being able to hide decision paths, or being able to put those decisions in deck building and having that extra places of randomness, that it's one of the reasons that Magic is 27 years old. If that was the most fun way to play Magic and that got the most people happy, somebody would have made dual deck draw Magic, right. And then if it got big enough, Wizards would have just said, "Okay, we'll do dual deck draw Magic."
Yeah,
the
fact that we've Commander, it would have happened here too.
So I think that people.
I had an original idea and nobody's ever thought of this ever, and I'm the most clever person.
Rich.
Yeah.
So here's another
behind
thing.
Patreon.
Here's another thing. So it is worth mentioning that in every situation where Magic has become degenerate to the point where people leave the game, it has involved cards and mechanics that undercut the mana system. And
the random system, the random of drawing your stuff, generally outside of Commander.
Like starting from now backwards, we have the whole stuff with Companion. We have
things that are too cheap. Fast mana.
Fast mana, that's another thing. But like up until recently, I think the modern design problems are not a subversion of the mana system. But that's a whole nother. That's like 16 podcasts. But like going back, it's like affinity for artifacts. The whole weird landless dredge decks in a lot of other formats, which are not too good, only because they have been
banned to hell
through bans to make them not too good. Or we even go back further, like the whole Urza Saga stuff with untapping lands when you play a spell. All of the cards that have been pushing the game to a point where people leave it and stop playing because it's not fun have been undercutting the mana system. And I cannot think of a stronger argument for the mana system than when we undermine it, people stop playing the game.
Yeah.
And I'm honestly surprised that the modal dual face cards with lands on one side did not ruin the game.
I think a
Like-
big part was just they were pretty. I think they were just well designed. Like
Yeah,
if
kudos.
those were pushed too much farther, like Yeah.
To be fair, I think that is only an argument of what the cards are doing is they're undermining the established system of the game. That's not saying the established system of the game is real good. That's saying it's the established system,
No.
and they're undermining the established system. That's why
Okay.
the cards are really good.
Yes, it is saying that it's undermining the established system. But if that was a more fun way to play, it wouldn't have made people leave.
with companion, we're talking about companion.
Or Affinity, or
Yeah, but, okay.
untap cards in Urza.
Yeah,
Like,
Yeah.
if that was a more fun way to play, people would have kept playing in spite of that.
I mean, and if the game was served better by having Moxins, just being able to play as many lands as you want, they would have kept printing Moxin. I mean,
Yeah.
and that's the thing. It's like it's kind of weird, but you can have fast mana sometimes as a treat in Magic.
Yeah.
That's when you get to do fast mana. But when we make it too good,
Gotta
when we
spend a card for it. Here's your Dark Ritual.
here's your Mox Tanalite. But Mom, we want Moxes that we have at home. We want to get Moxes, but we have Moxes at home. Mox Tanalite. That was butchered. I'm so sorry. But it's.
Oh Lord.
I think it's easy to go, I played these games of Magic, and oh boy, I got mana screwed. But I think there are so many hidden games of Magic that were so good because of the mana system, but you don't think of, oh boy, that game where I didn't get my 6th land drop till turn 8, but it turned into this. That was sweet. You don't think like that. You just think of, oh, that was a sweet win, and you don't necessarily break down the parts. It's easy to call out those bad games, but the thing, when it's working, it's a big picture working, not a game-to-game always it's great gameplay. And that's the thing.
Invisible, working properly kind of thing.
And that's why it's a system, and that's why other games exist. Because if Magic was the only good card game, and they figured out all of the good card game ways, there wouldn't be a channel full of games about other fun card games. So I personally have a lot of passion towards the Magic mana system. I also love Hearthstone. And clearly it works for universes because you've got a whole show and the whole channel that built up from that. So I don't want to be elitist Magic. We're the only ones who do it right. I think there are a lot of very good reasons that Magic does it the way that Magic does it.
My sample size is also much smaller, and so my percentage of Mana Screw, Mana Flood games is significantly higher because every time that one of those games happens, it takes a bigger chunk of my pie, and so
That
it's
makes
easier to understand that at
And
least
I-
at this point.
It happens more when you're not as experienced building decks.
True.
And also, like, I learned Magic. I mean, I learned Pokemon first, but Pokemon's another system where you lose your resources or your
Right.
resources are limited. I mean, this is just what I was raised with. When you come in from another, it is probably harder to come in from Yu-Gi-Oh or Universes and be like,
Very much so.
this doesn't happen in my card games. Why is this going on? It's like, well, our games, sometimes we have non-games because of this, and it's easy to be, but I promise it's really good, though. It's hard to
Yeah.
see that.
Yeah. And that's really like where that last statement is like where this whole thing is coming from. Of like, I promise it's really good, but sometimes we do roll the dice, and even if it's the 5%, sometimes the game just falls apart, right?
And sometimes it happens at tournaments, and it really sucks when the grand finals of your whole year,
Right.
someone had to. We've had multiple games like, well, LSV just mulled to 4, so we're done. Surprise! But hey, sometimes in the Super Bowl, someone just. I want to say pitches a shutout. I don't think that's how football works, but you know what I mean. Sometimes games just don't work how you want them to.
Right.
And so it's just one of the, and it's where does your game not work because it's gonna be somewhere.
Right.
Thank you guys for talking to me about this. I really appreciate it and hearing your guys' opinions on it.
JC, I realize as per usual, I didn't shut the fuck up at any point. Anything you want to make sure you talk about on Mana Screw?
No, I think we covered it. I do agree at the end of the day in two major ways. I think that the system that Magic employs is not the only system out there, and is maybe not the funnest system out there, like depending on who you are. But I do think the system that Magic has is what's best for Magic in the way that it works. And I do agree very much on the point that if you zoom out and look at the wide scale of games, you'll see that the Mana Screw and Mana Flood is like not as huge of a part of the game as you may like feel viscerally when you don't play very much.
For sure.
Well, I think it would be interesting. Like, it's hard to not take popularity into account when you talk about that kind of thing. Like,
Yeah.
it's so okay. So, MMO experience is relevant here. Is Warcraft the most, because everyone's already playing it and that's an important part of him an MMO, or are there design elements that are important to it? Same with Magic. Like in the mana system, good.
I have an idea. We should take this and put it in the as the post show topic of is Magic best because it's biggest.
Yeah, let's do it.
I think
that's a good call.
That's fair.
Tam's telling us we're running already.
Like, oh Lord, please just...
I mean, okay. So we're going to wrap up here because we are at a good stopping point. We are going to continue to talk a little bit about this in the post show. If you'd like to join us on that, it's $1 on Patreon. If you're watching this live, or you're watching this not live on YouTube and you feel like you've missed out, it's okay. You can go back and watch the older pre and post shows. If you're on Patreon, we had a hell of a pre-show this one. I really recommend it if you want to hear us argue about Super Smash Bros. Melee. We're going to wrap things up, though, for right now. We want to thank you all so much for tuning in. We like being here. Thank you to everybody in the chat. It's been lovely having you here and having some commentary, so having some stuff to bounce off of. If you want to join us in the chat, you just need to tune in for the live show. Again, $1 a month on Patreon. If not, we're happy that you're watching or listening, however you are. So we're going to say goodbye. Thank you so much. And everybody, make sure to remember who you are.